Hello and welcome to Country Roads Confidential. I am your host, Chris Anderson, publisher of earsports.com, the West Virginia site on the 247sports.com network. This is an emergency one-man podcast here. We are actually taking a two-pronged approach to the news that West Virginia has hired Wren Baker as their new athletic director. Some of you like to listen to people talking. Some of you like to read people talking. So I am going to do an audio podcast here and give my reaction to Wren Baker's hiring and the current situation at WVU. Meanwhile, Mike is taking to the website and doing what he does best and typing/writing his opinion on the matter. So be sure to check out both. I'm not sure we're going to agree on this situation or what's happening or what's to come. I honestly don't know what Mike is writing. Because he's writing it as I speak here. So could be different, could be the same. Who knows? Make sure you check them both out, though, and share your thoughts in the comment section of this podcast, in the comment section on our message board of Mike's story, and let us know your thoughts, because this is potentially one of the biggest moves, most important moves in West Virginia University athletics history. You know, we're at a very important time. Now is always an important time. Regarding West Virginia athletics and where it's going to go and what it's going to become. And today, or here shortly, West Virginia is expected to announce Wren Baker, current athletic director at North Texas, as the new athletic director at West Virginia. Right off the bat, when you go and check out Baker's biography, I noted there were two things in there that made it clear why West Virginia targeted him. Why they wanted him. The first was that, and I'm quoting here, Baker is a noted fundraiser and has led record fundraising years at 4 different universities. During his tenure, UNT Athletics has registered the 4 best fundraising years in its history, while securing 12 of the 20 largest gifts, 6 of the top 10, and the top 4 in UNT history. Under Baker's leadership, UNT Athletics set a school record for fundraising in a single year, nearly doubling the previous department record. If you're firing Shane Lyons because you are concerned about his fundraising and his ability to integrate NIL and promotion into the athletic department, this is a good place to start, is to go out and get somebody who can raise money. Somebody like Baker who has a history of raising money at all levels in all places. The second part here I thought was key. Baker has proven, again, quoting from his biography on the UNT website, Baker has proven to be a tactical recruiter when it comes to the critical task of hiring winning coaches. During his career as an athletic director, he has led 16 head coach searches, and those searches have resulted in coaches who have combined to win approximately 70% of their games. Now, the big question is, will he or won't he be conducting a head football coaching search in his first weeks on the job in Morgantown? As of right now, signs indicate no. Ross Dellinger of Sports Illustrated, Bruce Feldman from The Athletic, and several others have reported that the expectation is that Neil Brown will be back for 2023 and that Baker is going to evaluate Brown throughout the next 12 months rather than the next 12 hours or 12 days. My information backs that up, and it's something that we reported on our VIP board already. There was a team meeting Monday. Originally, some individual meetings were set. I believe it got pushed back. Whatever the details were on the changes, the end result was a team meeting on Monday afternoon. At that team meeting, business as usual. Coaches talking to players about the upcoming schedule for the offseason, lifting workout plans, going through setting up a schedule for individual exit interviews in the coming days ahead of the transfer portal opening, and honestly telling them, hey, the plan is we will be coaching next year. There are no forced coaching changes coming. There are no plans to change the head coach. Now, head coach, I think a lot of times you're not going to be telling your players that, definitively one way or another, pretty much no matter what, unless it's writing's on the wall, almost done. So you take that for what it's worth, but you combine it with the other news and the other reports, and it seems like that is the plan. Right now, it seems, as of November 30th at 11 a.m., that West Virginia will hire Ren Baker as athletic director. Neil Brown will remain as head coach of the WVU football team, and Baker will evaluate Brown over the next year. Is that the right call? Man, that is a loaded question. And here is my answer. There was no way this was going to end up the right call. No matter what the decision was, given the way all of this started, there was no way it was going to end perfectly. You guys will remember 5-6 weeks ago, I took to a post-game podcast and started ranting towards the end of it, pointing out that the administration, the higher-ups, had completely botched this entire situation, botched the timeline, and had put themselves in a terrible, terrible spot. That their choices were you fire Lyons but keep Brown. And at this time, they had not fired Lyons. There had been no indicator. There was actually more indication that they were going to fire Brown than they were going to fire Lyons. But I said, you either keep Lyons, but you fire Brown, which didn't make sense because the person who hired Brown was Lyons, and then you're going to put Lyons in charge of a new coaching search when you are blaming him for the last one. That doesn't make sense. Or you're going to fire Lyons and keep Brown. That also doesn't make sense because the reason you're firing Lyons is related to the performance of Brown, who you're then going to keep. Doesn't make sense. But because they had fumbled it and bumbled it and waited and fought all that time, they had put themselves in such a time crunch that it was not really beholden of them to fire both and then try to find an athletic director, find a new head, after finding an athletic director, then finding a new coach, then turning around and trying to keep the roster together. There just wasn't time for it. So what do? They waited another 2 weeks before finally making a decision, firing Lyons, and then keeping the Brown situation up in the air. So a month after I said it was already too late, the school decided, let's move forward. Let's make those decisions now, which put them in an even tougher spot. And now, you keep at this point, you kind of, it's almost like sunk costs with the stuff that's already happened. You've already screwed up 10 times. You don't want to have another wrong, and another wrong. Whatever, 2 wrongs don't make a right. 6 wrongs don't make a right either. You're kind of keeping Baker, and you're bringing in Baker, and it seems like they're going to keep Brown, which is fair to neither of the parties. It is not fair to anyone here. You are going to look at Neil Brown and say, hey, we're basically going to announce you as a lame duck head coach. 1 year to prove yourself. If you don't go 9-3, you're out. Or 8-4, like you're out. Like what's the expectation? What do you think he has to get in order for him to be safe after a year? Like it's got to be 8-4 or better in 2023 when West Virginia has one heck of a tough schedule. So you're expecting him to do something he has not yet done and to do it next year with a lot of questions surrounding the program, especially because every single player out there knows it. Every single recruit out there knows it. There's already recruits who were planning on enrolling early who are not enrolling early anymore. Our VIPs can read that story on Thursday morning, and you're asking him to retain players and bring in new players with no guarantee that he's here after 10 months. That's not fair. That is not fair to him. That is impossible. And then you're going to turn around to Ren Baker, new athletic director, and tell him, you have an amazing history of hiring coaches, but you're not going to be able to hire a coach right now. What we want you to focus on is your amazing history of raising money. And we want you to raise money for a football program that is in limbo where half the fan base wants the coach fired. And we need you to raise the most money ever because it's more important than ever right now. I'll be honest, I'm shocked that Baker took the job. I mean, I know it's a huge step up for him, but there has to have been promises in place because you're asking him to do the impossible. You are asking Neil Brown to do the impossible. You are asking Ren Baker to do the impossible. And you're asking them both to do the impossible because you had screwed up weeks and months in advance. And that is going to make these next 10 to 12 months of West Virginia football, really. I mean, let's not say it's going to impact the rest of athletics, because this is almost kind of just off on its own. The football program is off on its own here, because Baker will be able to work with the basketball program, with the non-revenue sports, and I think it's going to be fine over there. It's the football program, which, again, is the biggest moneymaker in the athletic department by tenfold. That's going to be the focus here. And the two people they are tasking with fixing it, Neil Brown and Ren Baker, are put into extremely, extremely difficult positions, unfair positions, in my opinion. And the people who put them in those spots know that 10, 12 months from now, if this fails, if West Virginia goes 4-8 again next year, loses half their roster, and they have to start a coaching search, they can just blame Neil Brown and they can just blame Ren Baker, when what happens next is not their fault. And that's just my 2 cents. Again, you're listening to this podcast, but Mike is also writing his thoughts in an instant analysis piece, and we'll have more in the coming days. I'm assuming at some point later today, Ren Baker will be announced and made official. And once that's made official, we will then get access to interview him and provide more updates as it happens. Stay tuned to earsports.com as we prepare for the opening of the transfer portal, the closing down of the recruiting cycle as we get close to signing day here in a couple weeks, and what could get very, very interesting. Until then, I'm Chris Anderson.